right, I'm here with Beth Hannan, who just finished her presentation in Arbinger's webinar series, Proactivity, Preparation, and Responsiveness, Insights on How to Move Forward. Now, we got a ton of questions, both during the webinar and before, and we're going to dig just a little bit deeper into a few of those questions. We've tried to pick a couple that are really going to answer as many of you as we can, knowing that that's kind of impossible when we got, I don't know, 2,000 questions. So we're going to do our best. So thank you, Beth. She's joining us from her home in Austin, Texas. And if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the first question and give you as much time as possible. So one of the questions that came up in various forms throughout the presentation was, how? How can I be more proactive and less reactive?
Yeah, no, thanks, Sarah. So it's a great question. It's a big question. I think right now, right, when we're managing a crisis and we're in uncharted waters, being reactive is expected, right? We're just reacting to things right now. We're doing everything we can to maintain our normal or new normal business operations. Now, look, I get the question a lot about how do I be a more proactive leader or manager? I feel like I get bogged down in the day-to-day stuff and firefighting all of the time, and I can't seem to get out of that reactive mode. And so, if we were not in the middle of a crisis, let's just say that, it's a common organizational challenge to get bogged down in the day-to-day. And so many managers and leaders find themselves, showing up to work and, before they can even sit down at their desk, there's a fire they have to put out. They've got to jump on the phone or they've got to jump into a meeting. And it gets really easy to fall into this pattern all the time. And so, look, there's always going to be things that we have to react to. I mean, that's not going to change. There will be fires. I think there's a way that we can reduce the fires. I'll hopefully talk about that in a minute if you don't let me forget, Sarah. But I think, people will say, does it mean I have an inward mindset if I'm being really reactive every single day? Well, that's something for you to figure out. I can't possibly answer that question. But what I know is this for me, right? And reflecting on my own experiences, if I'm showing up to work very well intentioned, but with my head down and focused on my own stuff, right? I've got to go to this meeting. I've got to do that. And just focusing on what's right in front of me. That's really limiting. And to some degree it is an inward mindset because I'm only focused on my own stuff, my own deadlines and timelines and objectives and needs and challenges. And so what happens when we shift to an outward mindset is, and most of you know this, is that suddenly we are not blind anymore, that our field of vision has expanded and we're able to really see others and see other departments and get really curious about what they have going on and what they're doing and how what I do impacts them and how what they do impacts me. And so suddenly what that does is it opens up this opportunity to be more proactive, right? When our eyes are open and we're truly seeing what's going on around us and we're seeing others, that puts us into more of a space to be able to be proactive, to be strategic, to reflect, to think ahead. Now, in the middle of a crisis, like I said, it's a lot more challenging. I think we are doing a lot of reacting right now. However, we are undergoing a lot of changes and a lot of uncertainty. And I read an article recently where it said that leaders should be taking 10 to 20% of their time each week right now to reflect and think about, what's next and how things might be changing and what our new normal might look like and how can we respond. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. I don't know, right? I can't speak to everyone individually if it's inward mindset or outward mindset, but what I know about outward mindset is possibilities and opportunities exist when they didn't before, when I had an inward mindset. So I think inherently having an outward mindset creates more room for being strategic and being proactive.
Well, like you said, there are fires all the time. And right now, everything kind of feels like it's on fire. So as a manager, this question came up as well. I kind of feel like I'm out of control. How do I be more proactive then? And you talked about that a little bit already, but maybe if you wouldn't mind digging into how can, if I am feeling proactive, but my employees or my team or my family, they're all acting really reactively, how can I bring that out in them and kind of get us all on the same page?
Yeah, yeah. So first, let me start by saying that as a leader right now and a manager during this pandemic, that uncharted waters that we're experiencing, we are reacting to things, and that's okay. And we're putting out fires, and that's all right. And so, what does proactive look like right now? I've gotten that question a lot, and it sounds like what you're getting at, Sarah. Well, proactive means trying to maintain business operations, taking a little bit of time to reflect and pause and think, while also still engaging staff. You know, Proactive right now means meeting with them and finding out what their challenges are, what their needs are. It's really easy in times of stress and crisis to just kind of shut down and sort of go into our own shell of what we're experiencing and what we've got to do next and all of that. But being proactive really right now just means engaging our staff, checking on them, understanding what their challenges are and how this is impacting them. Now, how can we help our team members be more proactive if they're sort of on this hamster wheel of reactivity and sort of chaos? Well, I think number one is modeling it, right? As a leader, we have to make sure we're modeling it. We may think that we're modeling it, and we may not. We may inadvertently be expressing some of our own panic and fear, even through emails, right? So if you look at our foundational principles of mindset, we at Arbinger, we say that it's not so much our behaviors that people pick up on. Like, I could be saying really nice things to you, Sarah, but I could also like secretly be resenting you and like hating you, which I don't. I think you're wonderful. But I could still say really nice things to you, but you would be able to pick up on that underlying sort of like friction between us and how I feel about you. And I think the same is true right now of leaders and organizations. You may think, we may think that we are expressing this sort of sense of calm and that we've got it under control and everything's okay. But the underlying sort of fear and panic, people may be able to pick up on that. So I think step one is to model it, but also sort of reflect on where you're at. I think that's really important. That's been really helpful for me. And then look, I think just talking to people, right? Reaching out to people right now. If you see someone who's sort of spiraling in chaos and reactivity, just talking to them, right? Having a real conversation and saying, hey, Sarah, tell me what's going on with you right now. And how can I help you? I mean, I think, look, people probably just really need to be seen and heard. The way we work has just changed right now. And in general, even in times without stress, people just want to be seen and heard, but especially right now. So yeah, I hope that helped, Sarah.
No, absolutely. I think that's fantastic advice and very practical. So in your presentation, you kind of had to speed through a little bit. I mean, you had so much to talk about. And you touched on your third insight. That was the one that you kind of had to go through the quickest. So I would love if you could dig a little bit more into that. The insight being, I don't have to have all the answers. And as somebody who always has to have all the answers, I really would love to hear more of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's funny, I get on LinkedIn, right, in the last few weeks, and you just see articles that say, how to present a sense of calm and how to reassure everyone. And so I think sometimes as leaders, we think that translates into, oh, well, we've got to be able to show everyone what we're doing. And we've got to be able to tell them, this, and this, and that we have to have all the answers. And we actually don't. I think what's most needed right now is communication, and we can provide a sense of calm through that communication. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that this is something totally new and different, and we're really just not sure what's going to happen, but we're trying our best. Sarah, as a new facilitator at Arbinger a few years ago, I felt this extreme need to be able to, when I got up in front of a client or meeting with a client, it didn't matter the industry, who they were, I felt like I had to be able to provide them with the best service possible. And in my mind, that meant being able to answer every question, being able to help everyone, right? If someone didn't understand a concept or they didn't buy into it, that was, I saw that as a reflection of me, right? And here's the thing, I really convinced myself that, I had to be everything for everyone because they were paying me, right? And I took it really seriously, and I wanted to be able to really help them. But the fact is that I think I was fooling myself. It was actually my need to be able to answer every question and be able to help every single client, to the nth degree, was really actually about me. It was about my need to prove myself to others, to prove that I knew this stuff, and really most importantly, to prove to myself that I knew everything and could do everything. And so a little bit maybe of a need to be seen as box there. And so what I learned quickly is that there's a different dynamic in the room, because I'm really robbing the participants of the ability to connect with one another, to problem solve on their own, to tackle their own challenges, giving them the space and the room to breathe and apply it to their own life. And so, when we have to have all the answers, we can really get in the way. And again, it can be very well intentioned. It's actually a great article. One of our clients sent it to me, and maybe they sent it to me because they thought I needed it. I don't know, but it's an article called "Hero as Hosts," or no, I'm sorry, wait a minute. "Leaders as Heroes" or "Leaders as Hosts." Yes, that's it. And it was really great. It talked about basically the leaders who feel like they have to be heroes and save the day and do everything. But it argues that we should actually just be hosts. We should actually really just be kind of facilitating. And I think right now that's needed more than ever. A calming presence doesn't mean that we have to have all of the answers, right? It doesn't mean that. It just means that we need to be human, right? We need to see people as people, and we need to invite others to see us as a person as well.
All right, one more question for you, Beth.
Yeah.
This is kind of a big question to pack into a tiny amount of words and not a ton of time, but what is one key takeaway for anybody who's watching this Q&A? They're going to turn it off. What would you tell them to do right then?
Yeah. So Sarah, I think it's what I shared with everyone at the end of my presentation today, and that is just to ask yourself, it doesn't matter if this is work or personal life, am I being the person that others need me to be, right? I think we should ask ourselves that all the time, but especially right now, because everyone is facing some kind of challenge, and we may inadvertently be getting in their way and making things harder for them, and maybe we don't realize it. And so, am I being the person that they need me to be? Am I being the leader that my employees need me to be? Am I being the parent that my kids need me to be right now, right? Because things are so different for our kids. Am I being the spouse that my partner needs me to be? Am I being the neighbor, that my neighbors need me to be? Because we're so much more connected and together than we are isolated. And now is a time that we do really need each other. So I would say that. I would leave everybody with that. But just do some reflection. We've got a lot of time right now. Well, some of us do.
Thank you so much, Beth. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your lovely presentation today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. Take care.